Hello, I'm Daniel O'Brien, creator of iAbacus, and today we're going to look at how we can use an abacus to create an enrichment self-evaluation and action plan. So, very recently, the Department for Education released the Enrichment Framework, and more specifically, the Enrichment Benchmarks. When you have a look at the benchmarks and the framework, it clearly says that these 8 benchmarks provide a clear, simple structure against which schools and colleges can evaluate their own provision. So these standards, if you like, can be used to create an evaluation and action plan for enrichment within your school. It's interesting that these benchmarks through the Enrichment Framework are also mentioned in the latest Ofsted toolkit. So they are incredibly relevant, but as with many frameworks and with many kind of text documents, they can become burdensome. So the idea is to make it as simple and streamlined as possible to make the best use of them. And hopefully what you'll see is that we can use iAbacus, which is a tool based on a model. So a model that's been used in schools for over 50 years to actually make the best of this framework. Let me show you how it works. As you'll see, you'll receive an abacus. The areas down the left-hand side are actually the 8 different benchmarks, and if you mouse over them, you can see in detail what they each represent. The levels across the top are taken from the language from the benchmarks, and you'll see, starting on the left, identifying, developing, embedding, and sustaining. And the beads, these literal iAbacus beads, they represent your level of performance or level of effectiveness in each of these areas. So you, as a school leader or as an enrichment leader within your school, will make judgments about where you feel you sit on these continuums. So let's say you start with this first one, strategic alignment. You will pick up the abacus bead and then you'll just simply drag it to the level that you feel is most appropriate. Now, initially, this is just your gut judgment, your professional judgment about you and your school and the provision that it provides. So let's say, for example, we felt quite strongly about the strategic alignment of our enrichment provision. We'd simply drag it to this furthest right-hand side here. You'll notice as soon as we put the abacus bead down, we're guided through the model, the process. First of all, we can check our judgment against the criteria, in this case against the DfE benchmarks. Next, we can signpost any evidence that justifies our judgment. We can analyse why we're at this position with helping and hindering factors, and if we know the factors that are bearing on performance, we can do something about them in our action plan. And this is the straightforward, simple model that we use in any abacus. So when this enrichment framework was launched, and you can find out more information about that on the DfE's website, we were happy that we could publish this inside iAbacus for our customers and to streamline the process. So let's check the criteria. Here, you'll see that we've loaded in the benchmarks. You'll see that initially I gave my school a score of 4 in this area, the sustaining level. But on reflection, after I look at the detailed criteria, the detail of the benchmarks, it might be that I moderate that judgment and bring it down a bit. Okay, so this is allowing you to make an accurate judgment based on your initial professional kind of gut judgment of where you are, but then refining it according to the criteria. And it might be that I decide that in our school, we're embedding this rather than sustaining it. So that's refining the judgment based on criteria. Next, I need to signpost my evidence. So when I click through to here, you'll see that I've got a text box where I can describe my evidence. I can include hyperlinks to shared drives or folders. I can even upload files if I need to. So all we do here is add our key evidence that supports our judgment. Be succinct, be evaluative, don't include too much detail. Remember, this process is about helping you look at where you are with a view to being better. And part of that, yes, is being able to signpost evidence. Let's move on to the next stage. Next, we're going to perform some analysis. Now here, we're going to use Kurt Lewin's force field analysis. It's really simple. All we do is to look at the helping factors, pushing the bead in the right direction, pushing us towards sustaining or embedding. And then we're going to look at the hindering factors. What is holding us back in this area? If we know these factors, we can work on them. We can strengthen the helping factors and tackle the hindering factors. So all we do is we enter into here any factor. It might be something that's had a big positive impact. We can put it in here and we can prioritize it on this list. So these are for you to enter your key statements. Okay, they don't need to be long text, long paragraphs, just short, snappy statements that summarize what's helping and what's hindering. If something is hindering quite a lot in a certain area, then you can again drag it to the top of this list and prioritize that as something that you need to work on. In the final stage, we go through to the action planning. Here, we will identify the priority areas that we want to work on. We'll expand them. We will decide what we're going to do about it, who's going to lead on that or be involved, what success will look like, and when we need to do it by. And it may be that we've even made progress on this already. So what we'll be able to do is to move the progress slider and then add in some progress notes. Okay, let's just recap the process. We start by making a judgment about where we are. We check that judgment against the national standards, the criteria, the benchmarks, whatever's provided, and in this case, it's the Enrichment Benchmarks. We signpost our evidence to justify that judgment, and we don't need to be too detailed, but we do need to be evaluative. We analyse what's helping, what's hindering, and if we know what's hindering, we can choose some of those issues and we can plan our actions. And that's why this tool, it's not a compliancy audit. This is a self-evaluation and an improvement plan around your enrichment provision within your school. It's going to give you a simple view of where you are, but also hopefully guide you through to improvement. And you can do the same process for any of these areas. Yes, there'll be different criteria, our evidence might be slightly different, and we may have different helping and hindering factors. Now, at any point, you might want to share this abacus with others. It might be in a planning call, in an inspection. It might be with governors or trustees. It's very simple. You can either collaborate online and simply invite someone to your abacus, or share it with them in the form of a PDF document. Let's do that now. Export PDF, open the document up, and you'll see here we've got a really clear and concise PDF document. The abacus beads obviously show where we are, and if I click on those, even within the PDF document, it's going to drop down. I'm going to see our evidence, the helping and hindering factors, and of course, our action planning. And that's the same for any of the beads where we fill them in. We'll always get our bead position, evidence, helps and hinders, action plan. A really robust, powerful document that captures where you are with your enrichment provision, but also shows how you're going to sustain it or improve it. So let's just go back to the abacus. In your abacus, you will hopefully work on the improvement and you will work on sustaining that good provision. And at a later date, what you might want to do is pick up another abacus bead and demonstrate that improvement by hopefully putting the abacus bead further to the right. Let's put it in sustaining. It knows that we've made a new judgment. It lets us copy across everything onto that new bead. And rather than starting again, we simply go into our evidence and we can work through it. So here we are. Here's the demonstration of improvement. And we're able to show that as a school, we're working on our enrichment provision and we're improving. Finally, if you're part of a group of schools, maybe in a federation or an academy trust, what you can do is work together and collaborate. So if you're an enrichment lead or a member of the central team, you might deploy abacuses to each of your schools. They might complete them like I've just done there. And then what you would do in that position of oversight is simply select them and overlay them. Now what we're looking at is a complete picture of enrichment provision across the trust. Each of these beads represents a school's judgment, but don't forget When we go into these beads, and for example here, I can see that 4 academies have put their bead in the sustaining level. When we go into these beads, we see the evidence, the analysis, and the action planning. So if my eye is drawn over to the left and I see that a school is struggling, what I can do is I can look at the evidence behind their judgment. I can look at their analysis. What are their hindering factors? What's holding them back? How are they going to improve? And perhaps some of this good practice that I see on the right-hand side can be replicated across the trust. Leaders from these schools might need to work with leaders from these schools. That might sound overly simplified, but the abacus will reveal that intelligence, that human insight that you have within your trust. If the overlay seems overly complex, you can simply switch it to a stack. This will show each school their own abacus stacked above each other. So hopefully you've seen here how we've managed to take the enrichment benchmarks, a really strong document full of some high quality content, but turn it into a very simple process for self-evaluation and improvement planning. If you'd like more information, have a look at iAbacus.com. You can sign up for a free trial. You can use it in your school. If you're an existing customer and you already have iAbacus, the enrichment template will be made available to you for no extra charge. Remember, iAbacus works across all areas, whether it's school self-evaluation, subject reviews, teacher reviews, learner progress reviews. We work for every role across every country. Hopefully, speak to you soon.